Hello, everyone. Welcome to our preseason power rankings. We're doing the Saints today. This is the 27th ranked team. This is an interesting one purely because this is a team I don't think is the 27th ranked team. They will not be the 27th ranked team in any world. But they're the 27th ranked team in the preseason because their floor is higher than other teams, but their ceiling is much lower than a lot of these teams that we listed. So, yeah, because their floor is higher than where they are ranked right now, they're probably going to finish as better than the 27th team. But because they have so little potential to go out there and ball out, as opposed to some of these other teams that might finish worse than them, but they at least have the potential to, make kind of a run. Yeah, we have them ranked 27th because they are so. It's so clear what this team is, right? It's so clear. And it's been that way for a really long time. So, Dean, anything you want to say before we jump into this with the head coach plus culture section?
Yeah, this team is the definition of mid in my eyes. That's what I would use to describe this team. The definition of mid.
And are they ranked 16th, which would be the mid? No, they're not.
No,
they're nowhere close to that because when you're mid, you're not actually mid. You are a bad team because everyone is trying to win the Super Bowl. You will never get credit for, good job, you won 8 games for 3 seasons in a row. You will never get credit for that. Maybe if you're a rebuilding team and you win 8 games, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But when the expectation is for you to win 8 games, and that remains the case year after year after year, that isn't a good thing.
No, not in the slightest.
And that's part of the reason why this head coach, Dennis Allen, I think a lot of people would agree, I feel like everyone would agree, has to get on out of here.
Get him out. Get him out of here.
He's a guy who I think, am I correct in labeling him as a very good defensive coordinator, not a good head coach? He goes in that category. There's a lot of guys like that in the history of this league.
He's the Arthur Smith of defensive head coaches.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of guys. I mean, Arthur
There's
Smith,
a lot of guys you could say.
I still feel that way about Brandon Staley. I'm surprised that he's not a defensive coordinator anymore. Vic Fangio, Kellen Moore, Eric Bieniemy. There's plenty of examples of that, and those are just recent ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but, no, he's a very good defensive coordinator. Yeah. It still holds true today. The Saints defense is still very good, I would say. It's just
the thing is, does this team seem motivated to go out and win games, really? No.
Not whatsoever.
Are they building a great staff? No. And the thing is, I think now we're at a point where even the locker room knows Dennis Allen is going to be gone. And when the locker room knows that, I think it's very difficult to put together a successful season. Even though you invested money in a Derek Carr to try and win right now, I don't think it matters. Well, whoopee now, but at the time, they signed him expecting that to make a difference.
I don't know. As an outsider looking into the Saints organization, I think I could have told them that would have made a difference.
That's fair. But I mean, I can't jump on the, whoopee I was right train because at the time I was a little bit more of a Derek Carr fan. I did not expect it to age the way it has. But yeah, no, the Saints were very clearly in a spot where they should have finally stopped kicking the can down the road. And that's the fact here. They are suffering the consequences of a decade of not necessarily poor cap management, but procrastinating with
bad
the
cap management.
Okay.
I would call it bad cap management.
Because they didn't win. But let's not forget, for a decade we were all saying, how the hell does this team keep adding players? How the hell can this team stay competitive? They were just $100 million over the cap, and they still brought back Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas is balling out, and they brought back all these guys. For a while, we were giving them all the praise in the world for doing what they were doing.
When they were competitive, absolutely. But we're going on year 4 now of them not really being competitive.
Well, it's because now they're suffering the consequences of that. The Saints have built their organization in a way that is downright hysterical. Or built this team in a way that is downright hysterical in terms of how much they push the can down the road. And I think that clearly affects the culture, because I think this might be the most hopeless organization, at least for the foreseeable future, in all football. I do. And it's not because they're necessarily bad, but it's because we know they're not bad enough to get high draft picks, but they're not good enough to actually compete. So they're in this weird purgatory spot, and they can't improve through free agency. So let's just move on to the offensive scheme. Go ahead and talk about Kubiak a little bit.
So Clint Kubiak, coming in first-year offensive coordinator for the Saints team, was the passing game specialist, I believe, for the 49ers last year. So another Shanahan disciple. Who would have thunk it that there would be another one in the league? And as we know, West Coast wide zone offense that we're used to seeing a lot of teams run at this point. Very different from their style of play from the last couple seasons. And I love it in the sense of they've got some great weapons to make use of this style of offense. I don't know if the offensive line can really make use of this style of offense, but definitely a welcomed change. The offense these last couple of years has been stale since Sean Payton has exited the building. So, turning to a Shanahan disciple, you can never say is a bad decision. I am curious to see how the offensive roster translates to this style of system, but overall, definitely, I think it's an upgrade from last year for sure.
Yes. Was the offensive coordinator for the Vikings for a while.
Yeah.
I think in terms of play design and just offensive scheming, he did a good job. It wasn't until I want to say 2021 he got fired because the play calling wasn't that good. And he was part of Zimmer's staff. Zimmer was obviously on his way out at that time. That kind of played a part in it. But yeah, the play calling and the actual play design and all that stuff, very different. The play calling was poor. It would be a third down. It would be like 3rd and 20, and they would do a halfback draw. And that's just like a what the hell are you doing type of play call. It was a kind of common thing. The misutilization of talent was a problem. But since then, he went under the school of Shanahan, right? Passing game coordinator for the 49ers. He's probably going to be a lot better now. And he was already running kind of an under center. We want to run the football type of offense. That was what he was running. And they would work off play action. It would be a lot of timing-based passing concepts with a pocket passer, ideally, Kirk Cousins. Now we're seeing a Shanahanian version of that, which, Shanahan runs a very similar type of offense, but he has more wrinkles. He has the, motion across the formation and jet sweeps and more outside zone concepts. And it's that type of stuff. Add that to what was already a pretty nice offense. Should be fun. It should be a good one. This is probably the only thing I have to say in like a overly positive manner for the Saints.
And I said first time offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, I meant more this is his first year as the Saints offensive coordinator, just to clarify. But with that, let's move into this offense and to the quarterback in Derek Carr. Mm-hmm. I have a very low opinion of Derek Carr. I don't think he's very good.
Tell me this. Have you always disliked Derek Carr?
Not always.
When did this start?
Probably the 2021 season. I started thinking he was holding back the Raiders.
What was the year where he led them to the playoffs and they called that timeout against
20? Oh, that was 2020, right?
Was that? No, I thought that was 2021 because 2020 was Herbert's rookie year. Right. It wasn't Herbert's rookie
2022,
year.
I believe that.
It probably was. So,
2022.
The last year with the Raiders was when I was started to become like, damn, I don't like Derek Carr anymore.
Yes.
But before that, I was kind of a Derek Carr fan.
Oh, I thought he was good too. I never thought he was I never thought super highly of him, but I thought he was a good quarterback. Mm-hmm. But that last year with the Raiders, it was hard to watch that film.
And I was saying to myself, oh, it's McDaniel's fault. And then he went to the Saints, and year one, how'd it look?
Yes.
Terrible.
Bad.
Terrible. So I was, when they signed that contract, I was not necessarily for it because I was like, why the hell are the Saints trying to compete? Just take the cap hits now. Please don't add more to your trouble. But I wasn't disliking the contract because of the player I disliked it because of the situation.
Yes.
You disliked it because of the player,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, I did. I have a take. I think Derek Carr is one of the worst red zone quarterbacks I've ever seen in my life. He is awful in the red zone every time he gets down there. I remember watching the Falcons game last year. They got to the 15-yard line.
I
They
remember
lined up
this.
and spread, and I was like, he's throwing a pick, dude.
And then Jesse Bates.
And then Jesse Bates did it. Like, he is awful in the red zone. And that's my thing with Carr nowadays. It's funny because early in his career, he was like really clutch. I consider him a very clutch quarterback. He had a lot of moments where it was like to go win a game and stuff like that. He's just not like that anymore in my eyes. He panics a lot. He's and at the same time of panicking and not being clutch, he's really timid. That's kind of what I've drawn from now with Derek Carr. Is he's super timid quarterback. Like, he doesn't take the shots you necessarily want your quarterback to take.
There was a primetime game where I want to say like 85% of his passes just went to Kamara out of the backfield.
That's good. Yes. I remember the exact game you're talking about. That it's insane. I think he had 12 catches that game or something.
Yeah.
It was a ridiculous number. He's just super timid. He is so quick to get off to his check down. He doesn't like going through his progressions. He has happy feet at this point in his career. I don't really get it. And I don't think he's very good. I could name a really large pool of quarterbacks that I would take over Derek Carr at this point.
Yeah, it's just funny because there was a while where he was the type of guy, I don't know if it was because he was oblivious or if he just didn't care. But, if there was a blitzing linebacker coming through free, he was getting that ball off, and he did not care if he was getting hit. There was a while where that was the case, and you kind of had to respect that tough style of football. He played Raiders football.
Yep.
He was everything that a Raiders quarterback should be. He was like the modern-day type of Kenny Stabler type of guy. Like, that's what he was. And then, I mean, what kind of happened since then? I don't know, but you're right. He kind of got into his own head.
Right.
And I blame Josh McDaniels, personally. Maybe I also blame Jimmy Garoppolo. Don't ask how, but somehow it's Jimmy Garoppolo's fault. But yeah, no, because, right, that's like a Jimmy Garoppolo trait. That, like, is the Jimmy Garoppolo trait. But yeah, I look, Derek Carr, he is in a spot where he's getting paid a lot of money, and that's the reason he's getting the starting job right now.
Yeah,
if it weren't for that, I think you know what I'm gonna say. Spencer Rattler would be the starter.
Before we get to my guy, Spencer Rattler, I do want to talk about what his cap hit is next year. How would you take a guess?
Well, I thought it was like wasn't it just like 30 million, 32 million, something?
Next year, they are slated to give him $51 million.
Holy shit. That's bad. They should not be doing that. I think initially his contract was structured to just be like 32 million per year or something.
Yes.
But I think Mickey Loomis.
They restructured it this season.
Yeah, exactly. It's that's bad.
That's bad.
And the thing is, that's not even the worst quarterback contract we're gonna go over. Some theme you're gonna notice with a lot of these teams: bad quarterback investments.
Yes, bad quarterback contracts don't tend to be ranked very high.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, now we'll move to Spencer Rattler. I really liked Spencer Rattler in this draft class. I had him as my 5th ranked quarterback. I was huge on him.
Just out of curiosity, who do you leave off out of like the main 5? Because there was a main 5 objective.
Bo Nix, and I left off Michael Penix.
Oh yeah, it was a main 6. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Huh.
I personally liked, and it wasn't the sense of like Rattler's going to come in and be better than either of those two. I didn't think that.
It's the upside.
But like, you're betting on the traits for Spencer Rattler, and these traits are traits.
And listen, they got it 4th round.
Mm-hmm. It's fantastic value.
Great value. Great value. The only thing, I think the main gripe with Rattler is the locker room stuff.
And apparently it's gotten a lot better.
Yeah,
I've heard South Carolina. I heard South Carolina players go to war for the guy.
Mm-hmm. So there you go. The only thing is, it seemed like a lot of his game too was screw it, Xavier Legette's down there somewhere. Mm-hmm. It seemed like a little bit of that, but
to be fair,
I'd rather that than screw it, Alvin Kamara's 2 yards away from the line of scrimmage.
And not only that, a lot of those screw-it throws were really good throws. He's a really good deep ball thrower,
Yeah.
really accurate guy.
Oh, yeah.
When he wants to be. Now, he's got to work on the mental side of the game, getting through his reads, getting through certain phases, his pocket presence, the ability to like not bail out of a clean pocket. But man, what he does on the move is special too. Like he is really talented on the move, throwing on the run. How much does that fit this style of offense? I don't know. But, if you can rein him in, train him to play in this style of offense, I think you could get some really great things. I love Rattler.
I mean,
think he's
Kubiak loves the bootlegs, right?
Mhm.
He does. I think that can be a really nice part of the offense. I'm not just saying the bootleg, just dump off to the player going in the flats. No, I mean the bootleg whole shot deep down the field on the run. I mean, that's what I'm expecting here. If Rattler's in the game. I also think Jake Hayner's another guy worth mentioning.
I was going to say the same thing. He was a solid quarterback. He was in my top 10 quarterbacks in that draft. I think he fits this style of scheme pretty well.
Yeah, I actually had him ahead of the guy who went to Detroit. What the hell was his name?
Hooker. That's fine. I had very similar grades on the team.
Yeah. He was a guy who I didn't think was much of like a operator in structure necessarily, but he's similarly to Rattler actually. Did a lot of stuff off script. He's a shorter guy, but let me tell you, he was able to make those throws, off platform, touch passes, the type of stuff that you want to be able to see an NFL quarterback do, just getting it through kind of tough windows, right? Again, he didn't do a lot of the mental stuff that you want to see, but what he did off script was really impressive. And it's funny because both him and Rattler are so different from Derek Carr.
So different.
So different.
Unbelievably different.
Just because of how they approach the game. Like, Carr is complacent with being so passive from the pocket. Meanwhile, you see these guys going out of their ways to avoid checking the ball down. They would rather take a sack trying to extend the play than take a 2-yard check down. Meanwhile, Derek Carr is fine taking a 2-yard check down on 3rd and 8.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so night and day. And it makes me question, what do they want? What type of quarterback do they want? Are they just sticking with Derek Carr because they signed him to that terrible contract?
And that's the thing. I think that's exactly why they're doing that. And I'd like a prediction. I think for sure he's getting benched this season at some point. I think they're going to be like, okay, our jobs are on the line. We need some excitement back there. We need some explosiveness. How long are you giving Derek Carr?
It's a question of whether or not he improves, but he probably. Most likely.
I'm betting against that.
Okay. If he doesn't improve, I mean, there's a part of me that wants to look at the schedule for this, but just a rough estimate, probably like week 6, week 7.
I was at week 6. I think, like, if they get to a rough start early on, I think he's on a very short leash. That's where I'm at, Derek Carr. I think he's on a very short leash.
And it's mainly because, like you said, the coaches are on a hot seat.
Yep. Right. Had this been last year, they were considered on the hot seat for some parts of the season. That was kind of surprising. They stuck with Allen.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely agree. I think they just saw how many other head coaches got fired, and they were just like, no one's taking us over. No one's taking us over these other teams. We know it. We all know it. I mean,
no one wants to deal with this cap situation.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna wait for the cap situation to kind of run its course, but. Now I want to move over to let's talk about the running backs before the wide receivers, just because, I mean, Kamara pretty much was their leading receiver. I don't know if he actually was, but let's be honest, he probably was, even though he faced a suspension.
Over Olave?
It's not even like a Olave's bad situation. It's just how much volume did Kamara
how much volume he got. Yeah, totally. No, Kamara in the kind of twilight years of his career. But, like, still.
Well, twilight years of his career, but let me tell you right now, man. For a while, I thought that Kamara was kind of falling off. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was just a 7-game suspension, and that allowed him to just take a couple extra weeks of rest or something. But, man, last season, he actually looked good.
He does.
He did.
He does look good.
Yeah, I still don't love him as a between-the-tackles runner.
No.
But dump it to him, behind the line of scrimmage, and watch him work, man. He makes some plays after the catch. He still has that vision. I mean, I really like Kamara in terms of how he approaches the game, as a receiver out of the backfield, someone on the perimeter, outside zone. He does a good job with that type of stuff. Now,
Yeah.
between the tackles, he still leaves much to be desired. But you look at the core, there's other guys that are good between the tackles runners. So
One of those guys is Jamal Williams, who very good in between the tackles. I like Jamal Williams as part of a backfield by committee even. Like, just you don't want him to be your lead back. I wouldn't say that, but as a guy to just come down, take some goal line carries, as we know in that DeAndre Swift Jamal Williams year when he just had like 15 touchdowns,
and that was all.
and that was it.
And
that
then
was
he
his
followed
entire
that up
season.
with one touchdown on a fake QB kneel
Yep.
the next season. Jamal Williams, he will be that kind of bruiser running back. Again,
Yep.
I think people kind of overrate that name. I think even the Saints overrated that name, paying him way more than he deserves because of the multi touchdown year. But he still has a role in this backfield. And Kendre Miller is another guy that I'm a fan of. I mean, he's almost like a mini Alvin Kamara, almost.
I think that's up. I think we have to see that first. I didn't love Kendre Miller coming out of college, and I saw some good things last year. I think mini Alvin Kamara. I think Alvin Kamara light is kind of where he lies. Yeah, like
Well, he's even worse in terms of like after contact.
yeah. I'll tell you this. At least from what I see on like Saints Twitter, there's a large group of Saints fans that think Kendre Miller's like the best back in this backfield and is going to be like a superstar next year. And I'm like, no, no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not exactly saying that. I'm just saying, Kamara's an old man.
Yes.
When it gets to the time where, late fourth quarter, you need someone to catch a running back slip screen. He's the guy to do it, and I think he's fine as that. I don't think he'll ever be much more, personally. I mean, apparently the Saints fans think otherwise. I was unaware he had such a strong community.
There's a big community of people who are like, yeah, Kendre Miller's the guy. And I'm like, yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but, cool, man. I'm all for optimism with these random players. I'm all for it. I'm all forward. There's some receivers that I think, at least one receiver that I think people feel.
I think there's multiple receivers.
Well, I think there's multiple good receivers, but no, you're right. I think there's multiple receivers here that probably have their huge followings, and I think these guys are a little bit more deserving of it.
Definitely.
Yeah, of course, Olave, we all know, is a great receiver. I think everyone knows.
Fantastic, man.
Separator. He's a great separator who can play the ball in the air.
I was going to say, last year we saw a lot of him, like, contested catch guy, like, going over people. Yeah. I remember that Vikings game. He 2 crazy catches over people.
I mean, thank God Derek Carr was throwing him hospital balls so he could showcase that ability. But, yeah, no, he was someone who he can get those balls, while going through contact, like a safety coming across the middle. He'll make the contact, make the catch. Like, he'll do it. He can.
Yep.
He isn't someone that really stays up after contact too much. I wouldn't say he's doing like some Deebo Samuel work, but he's mainly a separator who will get the tough yardage. He will.
Yep. And if you want to talk about a guy who's good after the catch, then we move to Rashid Shaheed, who deep threat run after catch guy, and as a wide receiver too, I think it's great. I think he's a really good player.
I think he fails to do it consistently enough to be the 2.
And that's fine. But here's the thing. I also think the 2 this year is more likely going to be A.T. Perry. That's
wow. So A.T. Perry, I like him as a role guy. But you think he could play like he's another guy. I just don't think he does it consistently enough to be a 2.
And I completely agree with you. But here's my thing with A.T. Perry. Again, his role, as we know, contested catch.
Yeah,
big.
absolutely.
Like, you throw that thing up. I compare him kind of like to Devontae Parker. Like, that guy when the Dolphins, he threw that thing up. Hey, Devontae Parker's down there somewhere. A.T. Perry's down there somewhere. And when
Alvin Kamara's down there somewhere.
When you have a quarterback that's timid and doesn't want to throw those balls up, that role on your team, that consistency is going to go down a lot.
Yeah.
I did a film review on A.T. Perry. I like the amount of catches. Like he didn't have a ton of yards or catches last
No.
season, but when
Yeah, he had
he
some
was
nice
given
touchdowns though.
when he was given, yes, he did. When he was given the opportunity to make those nice touchdowns, to make those catches, like he was good. Derek Carr just doesn't do that. Didn't and still won't do that. And I think as long as he's back there, yeah, that consistency is going to be rough. I would love to see A.T. Perry and Spencer Rattler, dude. He's gonna. You want to talk about Xavier Leggette's up there
That's
somewhere?
fair.
He's gonna do that with A.T. Perry.
That's fair. You know, I didn't even think about that. That would be a fun combination. I just don't know. I like A.T. Perry as like a goal line fade guy.
Not only as a goal line, I think him as a red zone threat in general is good.
Yeah,
His
okay,
in the red
true.
zone this year
But this is a legitimate question. I'm not making an absolute statement here.
Yeah.
I don't know if, from 40 yards away, they chuck it up to him. I don't know if his ball tracking is to a point where he's still mossing defenders the same way he does when he's getting a goal line fade from 5 yards away.
I think he did that well in college, but again, Derek Carr just didn't do that, man.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's why I don't know.
Yeah, of course. I'm just saying. And it's so funny because, like, the best game of A.T. Perry's season last year, no, not the best, because the best was the last game against the Falcons, but, like, one of the best was that Vikings game, and it was only after Jameis Winston came in the game, and Jameis Winston was just like, he's down there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what Jameis Winston is, and that's what A.T. Perry is. Yeah, I get it. If we're talking about receivers that we kind of have, like, our own secret cult of fan bases for.
Are you going to say Equanimeous St. Brown?
Oh, no. But, by the way, great run blocker, Equanimeous.
Great run blocker. Because I was going to join in on the good fourth receiver who's going to come in and run block Colt. Don't worry.
He's a great run blocker. I'm excited to see that. But, no, I'm here to talk about Cedric Wilson. A new addition for them. He's someone who, I mean, as a Dolphins
Miami
fan,
Dolphins bum.
Yeah, he wasn't great for the Dolphins. He wasn't.
He wasn't.
But
he also
for the Cowboys, he did a good job there.
We were all very excited when he joined this team.
Yeah,
don't you?
Exactly. But I just don't think, in terms of the type of player he was, I don't think he was made to succeed in that type of offense.
Not at all. Tua doesn't throw the ball up to guys who can get the ball like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just not something he does, and that's why he wasn't a great fit, and that's why Braxton Berrios and River Craycraft got reps over him. Okay.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. I think if you want someone to kind of play that role, I'm not talking about A.T. Perry. I'm talking about him. A.T. Perry does it in kind of a more like dominant, flashy fashion. But again, I just don't know if he could do it. Cedric Wilson is a guy we've seen do it.
We've seen do it, right.
And that's why I'm kind of leaning more him. Right.
Right. Can I ask, because I've heard some people say good things. I've seen some people say some not great things. Did you watch any Bub Means? Do you know a whole lot about Bub Means?
So I'm excited to talk about him when we talk about special teams.
Okay.
But that is how I looked at him. I know he's a rookie.
I didn't even watch him personally.
Yeah, no, I'm not overly familiar with him. I mean, he's gonna be a nice like gadget guy. But I look at him and the fact he's probably going to take up a roster spot on this team. I see that more as a tribute to his special teams ability. Okay. And maybe a little bit of gadget work, but that's really it. Now, I'm not overly excited for him as a wide receiver.
All right, then let's move to the tight ends. And I think this is a very good tight end room. I think this tight end room is awesome. Yeah. Like from the whole group as a whole, there's not a tight end in this room I don't think is a serviceable dude.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. It does become a little bit of a question because Juwan Johnson, again, I like him. He doesn't seem like the traditional type of
feels much more like big slot guy.
He's not really the traditional Kubiak type of guy, and Taysom Hill obviously isn't either. Foster Moreau, for me, seems like the most familiar territory for Kubiak. And because I think he's going to have way more reps than people expect. And I'm not saying he will, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go out here and Moreau becomes their top guy at tight end because he is the best scheme fit here.
Right.
Juwan Johnson, I mean, he can play that role, I guess. I mean, you're really wasting a very good slot if you do that, though. Uh, yeah, I just don't know if he'll get the jumbo slot reps because I don't really think that's part of a
That's what
offense
I'm
like this.
saying. Yeah.
That's what really interests me here, and it's the same thing with Taysom Hill. But I think Taysom Hill is just a tight end by name. He's gonna play everywhere.
He'll play everywhere. It'll be a fun, almost Debo used in that kind of role. You can put him
Yeah,
in the
huh?
backfield.
You
But
know
yeah,
that's actually a fair point. I could see him used like putting out there, give him a bubble screen, and them like relying on that often. I could definitely
yeah.
see that.
And then there's one guy I'd like to name because I really liked him in the draft.
Yep,
I didn't have some
yep.
crazy high
Here it is.
gray on him.
Here it is. I had a high name on him. I'm glad you mentioned him.
Well, I remember when we were texting on Twitter about guys, I mentioned Dallin Holker to you. I was like, this is my guy.
Was it? Oh, you
I
put
was
me
like,
on.
yeah,
I
I put
forgot
you
you put
on
me
Dallin
on.
Holker. I like Dallin Holker. He's my
Yeah.
fourth, fifth ranked tight end, something like that. Like he was awesome. He's good, man.
Oh yeah.
He's like I love him after the catch for one. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think he's really good after the catch. He's got solid hands. I think he's an underrated blocker. I think he
Very,
makes this team.
very.
I think he makes
Oh,
this
he
team in
better.
some way or
He
form.
better.
He's
I
good.
would be really upset if he doesn't, and if he doesn't, someone else better take advantage because he could run routes, he could haul in the ball, he can absolutely block. I think. Listen, I have him labeled as a jumbo slot because that's what he played in college. He can play an inline tight end. He definitely can. Again, you're kind of wasting his ability as a route runner if you
As a
do that.
receiver, you know what I
As
mean?
a
But yeah,
receiver overall, I kind of, especially like you can't really manufacture touches in space from the tight end position, but still he's someone I really like. I don't like that he can't find weak spots in zones, but you got other guys that could do that. He's someone that I'm a big fan of, Dallin Holker, and he better get a roster spot. While we're talking about tight ends, I want to talk a little bit about their fullback room because they have Adam Prentice, who's been there for a while. He's someone who, he'll go out there, he'll block in short yardage situations, contribute in that way. Not too much of a utility guy, but that's what they have Xander Horvath
I was gonna
for.
say Xander
Yeah.
Horvath, utility guy for sure.
And he's also a fullback for them. I don't know if they're going to keep both. That would really surprise me.
I'd be very surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a question of what do they want more. I think that's going to reveal a lot because this is someone who worked with C.J. Ham in the past. So would he rather have a Horvath? Or are we seeing an entirely new stylistic offense from Kubiak here? Are we now seeing the jumbo slot tight end because they have a lot of jumbo slots? But now he wants that blocker inline guy to be their fullback. If that's the case, they go with Prentice. Right? I think an underrated part or an underrated tell for how this offense will look is going to be their decision with the fullback position.
Right.
I do. Because, again, I think they go Prentice, they're going to have jumbo slots out there. And Juwan Johnson is going to have a pretty good season at the position he's comfortable in. If they go with Horvath, that means they want their fullback to still be their utility guy, and they're going to want the inline tight end. Because you can't just have a bunch of skill utility ball carrier guys. It doesn't work. You need to have someone to do the dirty work, or at least that's normally the Saints' mentality.
Totally. So yeah, I'm glad we agree on because at the time you hadn't watched Holker when we were talking about it. I was in the hospital when I told you about that. I remember.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that you got on the Holker train. I don't see a lot of people on it, but I think Holker's a very good player. So I'm glad we got there. I like Xander Horvath. I do. I think, yeah, I like Horvath. I think much more similar to that CJ Ham or even Juszczyk in what he's able to do when he was.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite give him the Juszczyk label because I don't think he's quite the blocker that a Juszczyk is, but
I mean more in the utility sense of Juszczyk can go out and do certain things, right? So that's where I'm at there. And let's move to that offensive line now and move to, again, the most important position on most offensive lines, the left tackle and their first round pick, Talise Fuaga. I don't love it personally. We talked about this a little bit in the Titans video, which you can go watch on my channel, which was the last one. I like Fuaga as a player. I like him I don't know if he's going to succeed as a tackle. I think it's going to be a really uphill battle for him because he is a mauler in the run game.
Yeah.
Mauler. This guy can move people. I have little faith in him in pass protection against some of these NFL edge rushers.
I wouldn't say little. Listen, does he excel as a run blocker compared to him as a pass blocker? Yes. I don't think he's gonna be phenomenally,
I think he's going to be. I'll tell you this. I think he's got a chance of being. I think he's going to be better than Trevor Penning. That's a low bar.
Yes,
but
I think that he's gonna have his rookie tackle struggles. Like, do I think he's gonna perform like a first rounder from day one as a pass blocker? No. I think he's gonna be what you expect from a rookie at left tackle in the NFL. Take that how you will. He's out there. He's a day one starter because of his run blocking, not because of his pass blocking.
Absolutely. But that's just where I'm kind of like, I almost like him better as an interior player, move him to guard.
Yeah, but what are they going to do? Start Penning again?
Yeah, right, of course. And I'm just saying this for Saints fans to know, like, again, I watched Fuaga and came away very unimpressed with his pass blocking. Like, he's got some balance issues. I don't think he's athletic enough to keep up with the quicker edge rushers in the NFL. Like, I think he's got some issues.
I think you're going to see... So part of the thing we got to talk about here is how the tight end is going to be lining up, right?
Yeah.
I think Foster Moreau being on his side is going to be a lot more of a common appearance than Moreau on Ramczyk's side. If Ramczyk is playing, but that's a discussion we'll get to a little bit later.
Right.
I personally think they're going to help him out a little bit because he's a rookie. I don't think he's an outstanding pass blocker. I'm in agreement with you there. I don't think he's an awful one, but I do think a rookie left tackle most of the time is not going to be successful as a pass blocker. Most of the time. And I think he's going to be like that. But I do think what he adds as a run blocker cannot be ignored. Would he be a better interior guy? Absolutely. But I also feel that way about every lineman ever. I mean, I don't think that there's guys that are better tackles than guards. I don't. Unless they're really weak, right? Fuaga is not weak at all. Fuaga is a bulldozer. And that's why I understand you saying he would excel as a run blocker, as a guard. Run blocking, even pass blocking, I think he just has to anchor down. He just has to anchor down.
It'd be a lot better. Yeah.
He doesn't have to cover as much space. So I agree he'd be a better guard. But again, I feel that way about most of the tackles in the NFL. So I don't really... I get what you're saying, but I don't think that's really a impactful statement.
Right. I guess it's more to say, like, I do think there was better tackles on the board. Like,
okay. Yeah, that's fair.
If you go Fontenot here, I feel much better about this offensive line and what they're able to do in pass protection.
That's fair.
Mims, I liked more.
But I also think it's because Mims is another guy I could understand them going with. But I think that they're trying to go with more of like this gap scheme, and I think that's why they didn't go with the Fontenot. If they were trying to go zone, they would go with Fontenot. And with Mims, the problem is he doesn't have that tackle to guard versatility if you want to use that. If you're a team that's trying to rebuild your offensive line like they seem to be doing, you want guys that have experience at guard and tackle. Amarius Mims is too tall to play guard. Simple as that. He is too tall to play guard. And he's just getting used to the NFL. You cannot move him in at guard. At least this way, Fuaga, if he's struggling, but maybe Trevor Penning has a good camp, now Trevor Penning can go at left tackle, and then you move Fuaga in at guard. Like, that versatility as a team trying to kind of fill the holes on the offensive line, that's an asset. And I think that's why they went with Fuaga. Because Fontenot might be a swing tackle, but he isn't a great gap scheme guy. And Amarius Mims is not a swing tackle. He's just a tackle. And that's why I think they went with Fuaga. That's my perspective of it.
No, I see that, and I think that's a very good perspective to have as a team. I think that makes sense. Let's move to the guard spot now with Nick Saldiveri. What do you have to say about him?
Unknown for the most part, it seems. I mean, he didn't start a single game last year. He doesn't have film to watch. He was a fourth-round rookie. Fourth-round rookie last year. Now he's going into year 2. Is he even guaranteed the spot, you think?
No. No. He's not. It's a competition there.
Shane Luminez, right?
Yeah.
I could see Shane Luminez winning that spot. Again, we have no idea what this guy is. We really don't. If Shane Luminez is there, I don't love it, if I'm being honest. But at least we know what he is. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. With him, I hope he is this player that really impressed during practice, and that's why they're putting him out there. But I'm not overly familiar with his game. I can't really speak on that.
Yeah, me neither. Let's just move to the center position. We'll say that's an unknown, but we'll move to the center position right now with Eric McCoy. And I can say good things about Eric McCoy. He's a good center, especially as a run blocker. He's a very good run blocker for the center position. Pass protection, much more suspect. I think he's got his issues. But again, as we said, a gap scheme, want to run the football in this under center system. I think that's fine for the Saints team. I think you feel good about the center position.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely the highlight of their offensive line if Ramczyk isn't playing.
If he's not playing, exactly. Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Yeah, McCoy is definitely he's the only established guy. Unless Nick is some insane.
Unless
player
Nick is him. Unless Nick is him. Yeah.
Yeah. And then right guard, how do we feel about Ruiz at this point? Not
I don't
good.
feel great. Yeah, I don't feel good.
So
about
tell
Ruiz.
me this: you think that there's a world where even Penning gets moved in at guard and either fills Ruiz's role or comes in at left guard? Do you think that's possible? I know Penning hasn't been great at tackle.
Yeah, but he's also been serviceable as a run blocker. Like
and that's why I'm saying I could see him being a guard. I could absolutely. He's a strong guy. Like even by NFL standards, he's strong.
It's just I think you're prone to penalties at the guard position too, and like he
no, I know he holds, but I think on the interior it's harder to see that. I would say you're less prone to penalties. No,
I guess in a way. Yeah, I guess in a way. I guess it's in the system that you run. Like if you're going to be running zone, I think I'd say you're a little more prone to holding because it's easier to see. But no, I guess in this way he can.
I think so. That's part of the reason why I didn't really care to search for film for the left guards. I think Penning goes out there and subs in. If not Penning subbing in there, I think they move
at one of the guard spots.
Or they move Fuaga in that guard. Like, there's a lot of different ways this offensive line will play out, but I'm expecting the 3 first-round picks of recent years, Ruiz, Penning, and Fuaga to all start. Whether that's the best offensive line possible, I don't know. But it maximizes upside.
It probably is.
Yeah. And it maximizes upside. So I think Penning moving that guard. That's what I think. And then Ruiz still starts on the other side. Ruiz he loses his balance a lot.
I'm not a big fan of Cesar Ruiz. I think
he's been really unrefined. He's been really prone to, leaning too much and doing all that stuff that you don't want to see. But he still is like a big guy. Okay? Yeah. He's not getting moved much. He's just losing his balance.
Yes.
Which is worse. But, hey, you fix that, maybe. I don't know if they can, but if you do, that'd be nice.
That's kind of it's almost the Evan Neal discussion of, you fix his balance issues, probably got a pretty good player in your hands.
Yeah, but how can you really do that? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ryan Ramczyk.
Fantastic player when healthy. One of the best right tackles in the league when healthy. It's just a matter of being healthy.
And apparently he might not be playing this year, so we heard.
Really? I didn't see that.
So that could be a devastating blow for them?
Yeah, that'd be rough.
Because then you got Landon Young at right tackle.
Oof.
Not a good spot to be in.
Nope.
But, yeah, you better hope Ramczyk plays, because if not, Derek Carr is going to have to check the ball down a lot more. But I think the fact they didn't invest in a backup is either because they literally can't afford one, or because
they're broke.
They know, or because they know that Ramczyk is going to play, despite the rumors.
Right.
So,
we
will see.
I mean, even so, it's kind of like if that does happen, they probably move Fuaga to the right side because that's what he played in college.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that's
then
true.
Penning
and then
goes
Penning
to the right,
plays left tackle,
which you don't feel good about. But what are you gonna do? I'd much rather have Penning and Fuaga on the field at tackle than Penning and Landon Young. So
that's probably fair assessment. But yeah, no, their offensive line, you got some potential. You got a lot of guys that could run block well. But I wouldn't say it's a very good offensive line.
I would.
It's young with guys that they invested a lot of capital into, but they just haven't panned out yet.
Yes.
And that's where it's just like but there is also a chance. I don't. They need what they need. They need like a Bill Callahan. We talked about him in the last episode. They need someone like that could just come in and just fix them. Because I do think it's all fixable. It's just really tough to fix.
Yeah, my thing with Trevor Penning, man, I wasn't high on Penning coming out of college at all. I didn't have a first round grade on him.
I liked him because of the physical dominance that he shows. Like he is a strong guy.
Yeah, I saw physical physical dominance. Sure, I also saw walking penalty when I watched
That's
this
fair.
tape.
Yeah,
and
no,
I was like,
held.
and a lot, and it just wasn't getting called. And I thought it was super unrefined. And again, this was like Saints gave up a lot to go up and get him. Like if I'm not mistaken, like they gave up a ton. And like Trevor Penning really set this team back. We talk about Mickey Loomis. Trevor Penning being bad really set the team back.
It's not just Trevor Penning. They're drafting as a whole. Bad. I mean, Peyton Young. What the hell were they doing there? They've wasted plenty of draft picks. Ruiz was another.
Just to clarify, Peyton Turner.
Oh, Peyton Turner. What did I say? Peyton Young?
You said Peyton Young. Yeah.
Okay. Peyton Turner was one guy. Cesar Ruiz we talked about.
I know Isaiah Foskey's only a year into his career. I thought Isaiah Foskey was picked very high for what he was.
They have not drafted well, and I think this year it kind of changed. This year I've not even necessarily because of Fuaga, but him, Kool-Aid, Spencer Rattler, like they hit on some of these draft picks, man. And I haven't seen them hit on draft picks as often as they did this year. Totally. As of late, they just haven't. So I think that's the big difference between this Saints team and the last ones. I feel optimism about this rookie class. But let's move over to the offensive superlatives, right? Offensive player of the year, what do you have there, do you think?
My offensive player of the year is Chris Olave. It's pretty easy for me. I think he's a superstar, man. I think he's awesome. I think whoever's back there I think he's gonna be their number one threat on offense. I think they're gonna feed him the ball. I think they know he's their best player on offense outside of like a healthy Ryan Ramczyk. So I think he's an easy pick for offensive player of the year for me.
So I have Alvin Kamara. I mean, I expect him to get volume again. It's just that simple. And I still think he's a great player in space.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that comes down to for me. Offensive rookie of the year. What are we thinking?
I want to say Spencer Rattler so bad. I just don't know when he's getting. I just don't know when he's getting.
Cock it. Cock it. Say it. This is going to be the first time we disagree.
Spencer Rattler. I'm gonna do it. Spencer Rattler.
This is the first time we disagreed on offensive rookie of the year. Like the entire show.
Is it really?
Yeah. No, we've been agreeing a lot of the time.
Yeah. So I would like to put a asterisk on Spencer Rattler. I don't know when he's getting into the game.
Yeah.
Like we don't know. Like
he should be getting into the game week one, but because they invested
Derek
so much
Carr is paying getting paid $51 million next year. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know what the incentive is to keep him on the field, but I love Spencer Rattler, and I think if he gets into the game, he puts together like a not like a great season, but shows flashes, and you're kind of feeling optimism. So I like Rattler. I'm gonna go with Rattler. Yeah, I'm guessing Derek Carr gets benched somewhat early on, personally. So
yeah, I'm saying Fuaga because this is an offense revolving around the run game. He's a very good run blocker. He might struggle as a pass blocker, but his run blocking is very, very high caliber, and that is going to elevate the team in a lot of ways. A lot more than a backup quarterback. X Factor, do you have that on your offense?
No, I don't.
I have Rashid Shaheed, actually. Okay. I think if he could establish himself as more than just a downfield big play threat, they're in a good spot. They are. Because they're kind of lacking that high caliber speed in the slot. They don't have a guy to do that because Chris Olave, I'm expecting to still be an outside guy. Maybe he gets some slot reps. But if Rashid Shaheed can be a slot guy that could kind of play a gadget role, maybe get bubble screens, do that stuff, I think he's going to be a big X-Factor guy for them.
Awesome. I'm assuming we have the same 12th man. I feel like it's one of the most obvious picks of
Oh, really?
He's
Because I do not have my 12th man on this
oh
side of the ball.
mine's Taysom Hill. I think he's the definition of a
Okay.
12th
You know,
man.
yeah, that's a fun one. I
Yeah,
get that.
so
I just question how will Kubiak use him a little bit.
right.
But
I
yeah,
just
no, I just saw some names on the other side of the ball that I would rather
That's fine.
take.
Totally
Uh,
fine.
but yeah, we'll get into that when we get into that. Let's talk about the defense, though. Let's talk about the defense. This is a unit that is going to run a lot of base 4-3. That's what this defense is. And Dennis Allen does a good job with the defense. He does.
I really like Dennis Allen's style of defense in the world where there's so much zone,
Mm-hmm.
so much like we're talking bump and run man coverage, man.
Yep.
I love to see it. I think it's a very fun defense to watch as opposed to some of those other ones.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Dennis Allen's a good defensive coordinator. He's a good defensive play caller. He's a good defensive mind. It's his coaching. So I'm excited about this. Some of the names on this defense, specifically in like the secondary, but yeah, I'm excited to see this
Single
defense.
high cover one. Single high cover one. That
Bump
is
and
what
run
this.
man coverage.
Yep. You'll see occasional shifts. You'll see some disguised cover 3 sometimes. You'll see some occasional cover 2, right? You might see some too high looks. Situational, exactly. But for the most part, they want to play man cover 1. That's what this defense is, and they do a good job at it, right? The corners are the reason why. You said it yourself. The secondary is what you want to look at, and let's just get right into that. Their corners are good.
Corners very good.
Their corners are
really good.
Yeah.
Like depth, man.
Mm-hmm.
Depth.
Yeah.
And of course, starting with their number 1 in Marshawn Lattimore. He's a stud, man.
Still a really talented guy. Physically, he can match anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the thing. There is no matchup, corner v wide receiver, like, in division matchup, that has remained so entertaining for so long, like Marshawn Lattimore versus Mike Evans. It's always a battle between those two because they're so physical. And both of them are committing pass interference on each other.
Pass interference on every play.
Every play. But it's both of them doing it to each other, so it's almost like fair. And I
will say, Mike Evans got the best of him this year. That's what I would say from what I saw. But yeah.
But it's always a back and forth. It's always a really fun one. And it seems like the officials, they know at this point, just let them be. Let them do their thing. Like,
kind of like
agreed upon.
OBJ and I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now, but
OBJ and Josh Norman.
That type of thing.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, this isn't just like a one-time thing, and that's why I want to really point it out.
This is twice a year.
It's twice a year, and it's not just one season. It's been going on for years now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these two, it's almost like they play just to go against each other. Like, they're waiting. I feel like Mike Evans is just waiting for Marshawn Lattimore to retire. And that's why
he'll retire. He'll call it quits.
Yeah, exactly. For him, it's not about continuing to put up a consistent 1,000-yard seasons. It's about beating out Marshawn Lattimore. That's what it's about for him. It's so fun to watch. Marshawn Lattimore, really physical corner. Really, really physical. And, that's what you need in a man-heavy defense. Love Lattimore.
Love Lattimore. And a guy I love, like, debatably played as good as Lattimore last year. He was amazing. Paulson Adebo was fantastic last year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. It is from the other corner spot.
It is from the other corner spot.
But, no, he still is playing well. Yeah.
He was playing fantastic, man.
Mm-hmm.
A young player. You love to see that. I'm not as huge on, like, Alontae Taylor, personally. I thought
So, with him, it's really strange because you watch his film and you think he puts together a much better season than he does on the stat sheet. He allowed, like, a 60% completion rate. But then you watch the film, he seems so much better than that. I don't really understand how. I think there's some stuff he kind of just lets fly.
Yeah.
I think he plays a little bit too passive, and in a man-heavy defense, it doesn't really work.
And that's something I completely agree with there. And now, he's listed as the nickel on, like, our lads, which, again, I don't love, because he kind of plays passively in this defense. But then we move to Kool-Aid McKinstry.
I'm excited excited to see him.
I had him, my 4th ranked corner.
Yeah,
But
well, I had him as
there
my
is
fifth,
quite
but it was such a good corner class.
and not only that, there is quite literally not a better fit in this draft for the Saints system.
Oh,
You talk
yeah.
about press man, bump and run corner.
Mhm.
That's Kool-Aid McKinstry.
It's either him
He's
or his teammate.
yeah,
But the only
and
thing is
even with Arnold, I thought he was better in off man than he was in press man.
well, I think just altogether, Kool-Aid is currently the better player. It's just Arnold provides you with more upside. Because
Yeah,
Arnold
and
was
even
the stronger, lankier type guy. Kool-Aid was just refined.
right. I also thought that personally, I thought that he was the better off man coverage corner. I thought he did better in space, but
Yeah. Well,
I
I just thought
digress.
Kool-Aid
Kool-Aid's
was
the perfect
better.
fit here.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I thought
Kool-Aid's
Kool-Aid.
fine. That's perfectly
Kool-Aid.
fine.
The only thing with him is he's kind of already at his ceiling. I don't think
Yeah.
there's much more improvement for him to make.
Right.
But at the same time, I think he's going to be one of the best nickels in football.
Yeah.
I do. And that's not necessarily because of him as a tackler. That's more because he is just so good at just matching guys. And even though as a nickel corner you're responsible for more area, both to your right and to your left, he is just so good at just mirroring players. He's not a ridiculous athlete by NFL standards,
No.
but still, he is so good at just seeing a receiver do something and perfectly matching them. That's why he's such a good man guy. And he's really smart, too. I'm a Kool-Aid guy. He was my corner 5, but that's not because I didn't like him. I thought he was worth a first-round pick. This is just the most stacked corner class I ever saw.
Yeah, this is a stacked corner class.
Mm-hmm.
So then you look at the safeties, and you're feeling less optimistic. I think Tyrann Mathieu still a really good player, but not really good, but a good player.
Yeah.
But then you look at the other safety spot. They have Jordan Howden starting. I can't give you a Jordan Howden analysis, unfortunately.
This is gonna be the same as what the hell was the guy's name who played on the Chiefs with Tyrann Mathieu?
Oh yeah, no,
time. It's gonna be the same exact situation.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. We're gonna see from
What do you
Tyrann?
Yeah,
exactly.
Mathieu, what are we
From Tyrann
doing?
Mathieu. We're gonna see that a couple times throughout the season. It's inevitable because he's going to be responsible for the middle third.
Yeah,
Middle third. Meanwhile, Tyrann Mathieu's going to be buzzing down. And when the big play happens, it's not going to be on Tyrann Mathieu.
No, it's going to be on Jordan Howden. Remember the name.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to be problematic for them. Safety is so important when you're running a lot of man.
Yep.
It is. Because a lot of man corners rely on the safety. Okay? They're basing their leverage on the positioning of the safety. All right? And because of that, they're going to let some stuff fly, believing that the safety will kind of pick up on for their slack. That is what good man corners do. You can't be all over a receiver in the NFL. It just doesn't happen. The wide receivers are too good for that to work. You really need the safeties to consistently be in the right place. And when they're not, that's not just we let up a first down. That is a touchdown that you allow.
Yeah.
It's bad. So you really need to make sure, even if your safeties aren't great, they just need to be in the right spot. I don't know if I can trust Howden to do that.
No, I can't, personally.
And there you go. So even though he's one weak link, running a cover one heavy, single high type defense like this, that's the ultimate. You're as strong as your weakest link in the secondary. And I do think Howden, despite just being one bad player in what I consider to be a very good secondary, could single-handedly derail this defense for them.
And I have a question. Is there a world where Mathieu gets moved to the free safety spot and, they have Abram, though we don't like Abram come down and play that buzz role?
The good thing there would be that Abram, I like him as a run defender. Yeah. But at least when Abram makes a mistake in coverage, it won't be a touchdown. It'll just be that first down.
Yeah.
Okay? So, yeah, I mean, I would be fine with that personally. I think that would be the better play. It's just then you have to move Tyrann Mathieu to a position he's not overly comfortable with. Can he match the speed of today's receivers going deep anymore? I don't know. He's an older guy now. So then you create some new problems. I don't really know.
Yeah, you don't really know. And that, again, very important in this style of defense. But moving off from the secondary, let's go talk about the linebackers. And
Mhm.
it's a good linebacker room, man.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah, I
really good
agree.
linebacker room.
I
Demario
agree.
Davis, for as old as he is, he's still a good,
Him
damn
and
good
Cameron
player, man.
Jordan. Him and Cameron Jordan. I don't get how they do it. They're
Yeah.
so old, yet they're still like some of the best players at their position. To me, it sounds like
Right.
you disagree a little bit on the Cameron Jordan thing. We'll get
Definitely
to
a
that.
little bit there,
Okay,
but
we'll
we'll
get
get
to
to that.
that. We'll
Demario
get to that.
Davis, 100%.
Demario,
He's a damn
even
good
in
player,
coverage,
man.
even for
He's
coverage,
good in
he could go
coverage.
man to
Yes.
man with some of these tight ends and still keep up. I don't really
He's
get
one
it.
of the better. He's one of the better linebackers in the league still. Like
Yeah.
that's just how it is. And
hmm
then the guy next to him, Pete Werner, he's getting better every
Oh
season.
my god.
He's
He's
great.
he's really emerging as a stud. Like that linebacker duo alone is really damn good. Uh,
And then you've got depth with Willie Gay, who
Well,
is
I don't
just
even think that's depth. Like we said they're running a 4-3.
yes, yeah,
He's
four
gonna be
three.
that third linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
And Willie Gay, I don't like him much as a coverage guy, if I'm being
No,
honest. But
no,
dude, meeting blocks and just holding your ground, like that is his role, and he does it. He does it, and he
man.
does it really well. And it was on display throughout their Super Bowl run with the Chiefs, right? Willie Gay, I think he's really good at that role.
Yep.
And that's their third
And
linebacker. He might get exposed a little bit in coverage, but I still really like him.
but when you've got two other linebackers that are really good in coverage, you're less worried about it.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. And it's not like they're running a Tampa 2, all right?
No.
They're running a 4-3. I mean, you put him on their worst pass catcher, probably someone that's gonna, like, oh, Nick Boyle's out there, Drew Sample's out there, a very clear blocking tight end. Okay, yeah, I'll cover him.
We'll give up the 6 yards that they just got. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Like, he'll get exploited, but when's that going to happen? Like, once, twice, maybe 3 times a game? Like, it's not going to happen that often. You're completely fine with it.
No. Is there anybody else you want to touch on in this linebacker?
No,
room?
I
Not
don't
me.
think. I think it's a very clear. You have your lead three, and then beyond that, there's not much.
Yeah.
But
So,
the defensive line, that's for me. I just want to have a conversation because it's very clearly structured a certain way.
Yes.
It very clearly is. This edge depth, by the way, there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of
guys.
Yeah. I don't think that there's any like T.J. Watt, but I look and you got Cameron Jordan, who you seem to disagree a little
So
bit.
I think Cam Jordan is still a really good run defender. I just think he doesn't quite have the juice anymore as a pass rusher. I think he's still good.
Mm-hmm.
He's good. I don't like, but I meant more like when it comes to between Davis and Jordan, who's aging better. I think it's Demario Davis.
Maybe at this point, but for a while, Cameron Jordan was just so good with just the bull rush
of course.
alone.
Throughout, yeah. I'm talking more last year what I saw on tape. It just
that's
didn't
fair.
quite have the juice that you saw.
He still will
good.
have some reps where he just bull rushes guys straight into the QB's lap, though.
Absolutely, I completely agree with that.
I think this is the point where not really winning with technique and really only winning off the edge with pure power kind of catches up with you, right? And I think last season we did start to see it a little bit, but I still think, listen, the fact this guy is still like a edge one, like primary edge threat for his team says a lot.
Right.
Says a lot. But, I mean, even if he can't go every down now, though, they have some guys that you could just put out there.
Absolutely. I like Carl Granderson.
Yeah,
Granderson
had a good season. Good season.
Was a good player last year.
He played like that Trey Hendrickson role, right?
Mm-hmm.
He went out there and he was that great pass rusher off the edge. Like, he was really good. And I think run defending, like, he was fine. He was fine. I thought he was a better run defender than Trey Hendrickson was when he was with the Saints, personally. Like, I thought he did a fine job. Peyton Turner, he was a first-round pick. That's all I have to say. Do I think he was worth a first-round pick? No, but he was a first-round pick. Chase Young, they brought him in. I don't think it was really worth the investment. Once again, why are we not just taking the cap hit? Why are we adding more and more to this already terrible cap situation? I don't know, especially because this is a position where there are many guys deep, but whatever. Still a good player.
Yeah, I want to touch on Chase Young because, like, it's so weird to watch last year. Chase Young, his season on the Commanders, like, he was starting to look like rookie Chase Young of like he was fantastic this season on the Commanders. He was debatably the best player on their defensive line until he left. And just like production wise and what he did on film, like he was amazing. And then he went to the Niners, and I'm like, well, cancel the season, if he's going to keep playing like this. And he didn't. It was weird. He just went
Well,
from that high level of play that we
mhm.
saw to suddenly
Yeah,
didn't do that anymore.
the D line coach and Steve Wilkes, they were not doing a good job with the 49ers defensive line.
Yeah.
I mean, Bosa seemed to have his worst season we've seen from him in his career on tape. They brought in Javon Hargrave, yet it seemed like a downgrade from the seasons prior.
Yep.
Eric Armstead, I mean, he was still Eric Armstead. He didn't really drop off too much, but still, it was the weakest season relative to their talent. I mean, it was a weak season for all of those guys. So I'm willing to say it was just terrible coaching on the defensive side of the ball, personally. But yeah, no, listen. I think Chase Young, he still has some juice. I don't know if he's going to be rookie Chase Young again, but he still has some juice he could provide. Yeah, and then they also have Isaiah Foskey, who is someone can hold the edge, prevent runs from getting outside. That's what he's there to do.
He
Big
is
guy.
there to be a run defender.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That again, I think they picked him in the second round in
Yeah.
that draft, and I was like,
Early.
that's early. But if he's gonna fulfill a role, he's not a bad player. He's gonna, if you need him come to defend the edge, set the edge, he can do that.
Yeah, that depth is really nice to have. I can't really say the same stuff about the interior, though. Right?
No, for some reason, our lads has Brian Bresee as a depth guy.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
that's
that's
gonna
going to be
happen.
the case
He's
either.
definitely the best defensive tackle on this roster.
Yeah, but I don't.
He's.
I don't know how good he is though. At this point.
I thought he put together a good season last year, and he's a guy that is, I think, gets better. Like at least like he has the potential. There's his
I
ceiling
agree.
is.
He should be getting better. He
Yes.
because he has all the traits. You're completely
He has all
right
the traits.
in that way. He has all the traits. Last season, I wouldn't say he was bad last year.
No.
But I don't know
He
if
had
performed.
flashes.
I wouldn't say he performed like a first rounder like you would expect him to. But then again, he was a rookie. He was a rookie, and he was coming off a season at Clemson that was pretty disappointing relative to the rest of his Clemson career.
And when you put in the context of like, I believe it was his sister had died, and he
Oh,
was
I did not
yeah.
know that.
So that was a big part of it. Is like during that Clemson season, is like I don't know if it was a sister per se. I'm pretty sure it was a sister though that she died of an illness. He just wasn't in a good headspace. It was rough.
There you go.
So you know what I mean. And he's kind of a raw prospect coming out, still dealing
Yeah.
with that. Year removed, 2 years removed now. You see some progress, and you're hoping to see some
Listen,
progress
he
because
should
the
only
traits
be
are
getting
there.
better. He should
The
only be
traits are
getting
there,
better.
man.
I just don't know if it's him, and then he is the interior defensive line. Let's be honest,
Yeah.
he is. And because of that, I don't know. Listen, he should be improving more and more every season. So I still think he's good. I'm not saying he should be riding the bench. It's just because he doesn't have much help, I feel like you need to be like a Vita Vea or
Yeah.
Dexter Lawrence or Quincy Williams or one of the best defensive tackles in the sport. And he very clearly isn't that.
No. But not, and again, he has the potential to be a top
Yeah.
defensive tackle. We're
Yeah.
not saying he can't. But as of what we saw in last season as a rookie, not quite there yet. Maybe he's improved. Maybe he comes out and is like
Yeah.
premier D tackle, and then we're looking at this differently. But
Although
as of
I
right
guess
now, no.
Kalen Saunders is a nice gap filler.
Yes, he's a good run defender. Good guy
Yeah.
who's not gonna get moved. He's gonna sit in his gap and make sure no one gets through there.
He's also someone who got a couple of fullback reps, worth mentioning.
Yes, he did.
Throughout
David
the year.
Miller. David
Yeah.
Miller football.
There we go. But yeah, no, we'll see. I think the edge group is definitely much better than the interior.
Absolutely.
But yeah, this is a defense. I think they're going to be nice up front, and that secondary for the most part I really like. Let's move over to the superlatives though. Defensive Player of the Year. What are you thinking?
For me, my defensive player of the year is going to be Marshawn Lattimore. I still think he puts together a really good season. He's fantastic. Again, these corners are so important in this system. He still is the best corners team. As much as I praised Paulson and Debo, this is the guy that's covering the number one receivers and all of that. So I'm going to go with Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah, with him getting older though, and I know this other guy's also getting older, but his age doesn't seem to affect him anywhere near as much as you would expect the corners to.
Yeah.
I'm going with Demario Davis just because he feels like the safer play. He'll
Right.
also contribute more to the run game. He's going to be part of the reason they could get away with their interior defensive line being a little bit weaker. Yeah, no, I got to go with Demario Davis.
Fine by me. And another thing with Lattimore too is like we got to remember they got to pay this guy next year. He's got more incentive
That's
to be a
fair.
good player.
Yeah, that's fair. Tell me, defensive rookie of the year, who do you have there?
Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the only option here.
Yeah.
Maybe you think Christian Boyd, and like maybe you think like Kalen Saunders and Nathan Shepard aren't cooking it, and you need to put Christian Boyd in there. But no, I feel like Kool-Aid McKinstry's probably the only option here.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there. I have him as the defensive rookie of the year. You have your X Factor and your 12th man?
No, my 12th man was Taysom Hill.
Oh, yeah. Who's your
So
X
my
Factor?
X Factor's here. My X Factor's Chase Young. My
Okay.
X Factor's Chase Young in the sense of like, again, I saw 8 weeks of that might be rookie Chase Young again on the Commanders. And then he went to Steve Wilkes and the destroyer of defensive lines. And we missed that again. So if Chase Young can play like he did in those first 8 weeks for a consistent season, that's a really good player. That's a really good player.
Yeah, that's a good pick. That's a good pick.
Yeah.
I went with, for 12th man, because I didn't say Taysom Hill for mine, I went with Kool-Aid again here.
Great.
Because we don't think they're going to be running a lot of nickel, but we think he's going to be the nickel corner. I think on most teams he would be a starter, but because they're going to be running a lot of
here.
Because they're going to be running a lot of 4-3, and they have both Paulson and Debo, and Marshall and Lattimore. I think Kool-Aid is just going to be 12th man. I think he's going to be really good when they put him in, though. On clear passing downs, they're going to put him in, and he's going to be spectacular, despite being a rookie. I have really, really high hopes for him right there. Let's move over to special teams now, though. Before going over to the schedule, going through that and predicting and wrapping it up, special teams. You know how much I like to tackle this.
Love it.
With the new kickoff rules, I really think special teams are going to be important this year. Return man, are we in agreement? Rashid Shaheed? Do you think Bub Means maybe goes out there? What do you think?
It for the most part, it's going to be Shaheed. He's a return specialist within his game. Bub Means also a player that can do that because he's kind of that gadget guy. Return kicks in college for his team. No, but I don't think there's much of a competition or conspiracy there. It's most likely going to be Shaheed for the most part.
I think Shaheed's going to get one. I think Shaheed is going to get either returns with punts or returns with kicks.
Right.
And then the other one is going to go to Means. That is my expectation right here.
Okay.
Now, in terms of which one, I'm probably leaning with Shaheed getting punt returns and Bub Means getting kicks. Just because Bub Means is more of that, explosive, but will let stuff develop type of guy. Meanwhile, Shaheed is kind of just more of a I'll run straight forward type of return man. Bub Means has more experience as a returner. That's where I'm leaning here. Are there names? I think there's plenty of names that I want to see lead blocking on kick team.
Before we get there, I just want to say I fully expect Taysom Hill to return some stuff too.
That's fair. That's fair. And
he's gonna get stuff.
Then we might even be able to see the same thing that people are kind of proposing with Taysom Hill or with Justin Fields getting kick returns, punt returns, whatever. Some lateral work, right?
Lateral work. Yep.
Yeah, we see him, turn around, throw a lateral to Rashid Shaheed or a Bub Means, and then watch that work out.
I also think Hill's a big enough guy to you could put him back there, double return men with a Shaheed, and he can go block.
That's how he got his start.
Yep.
That is how he got his start.
Special teams.
He secured a roster spot because of his gadget work, but initially he was just a special teams guy. He was on a kicking team, punt return. He was on all that stuff. As a lead blocker, he could tackle, he could do all that stuff. Taysom Hill is one of the better special teamers in the NFL, one of the better special teamers on this team. I'm expecting him to still play that role for them on every special team, whether that's lead blocking, tackling, all that stuff. I mean, you could have him long snapping for all I care. I think he could really contribute in all of these different ways. Are there other names that you look at here?
In the sense of blocking?
In terms of just any contribution on special teams, really.
Right. What's it called? I think I would love to see Jonathan Abrams go out there and be a lead blocker,
Jonathan
man. And as a
Abram, yeah.
gunner and
I
just
was
go
thinking
slam
Gunner. I
somebody.
was thinking Gunner. I think him and Cedric Wilson.
Yeah.
That's probably what I'm
Um,
leaning towards.
Dallin Holker is a blocker on return man.
Dallin
I'd love to
Holker.
see.
Nephi Sewell is someone I really have hopes for. He's related to Penny Sewell. He's related to Noe
Okay.
Sewell. He's someone that could go out there, not just be a blocker, but also contribute as a tackler on the kicking team, be on the punt team maybe. He'll go out there. I think he'll contribute in a lot of ways and really secure a roster spot in that way. Also, Jalen Ford is a name we didn't mention as a linebacker, but I think he will contribute a lot because he's an athlete that could tackle well. He's built to block. I think Jalen Ford could be a huge contributor too.
Yeah.
Foster Moreau and Dallin Holker. I mean, you mentioned Dallin Holker, but I think Foster Moreau can contribute a lot too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys. This is probably one of the more interesting, more loaded with special teamers type of teams because they have a lot of those big, tight end linebackers that could run and cover space. They're kind of built to be successful on special teams because of how much depth they have. Like, there's a lot of names I could go out there and say here.
Totally.
Yeah, this is a team I
you.
look forward to seeing special teams wise. But now let's move over to our overall prediction, starting with our floor and ceiling.
We both agreed.
Yeah, 5-12 for the floor, 7-10 for the ceiling. Like we said, we think their floor is a little bit higher than some of the other teams in this area, but their ceiling isn't too high. It isn't.
Yeah, in comparison, I believe the floor we agreed on, like the Panthers' floor was like 3-14 or something like that, and its ceiling we had a 9-8. You know what I mean? There's a much different range of outcomes. We don't think there's a ton of different outcomes for this team.
And here's the difference too: the Saints. I mean, you look at their schedule; they're a little bit easier than some of the other schedules we looked at. Right?
Yeah.
So that I think plays a role in this. Let's look at that schedule though. It starts off with an easy one against the Panthers, right?
Easy on paper. I just want to point that out.
Okay, sure. Sure. You think the Panthers might get a little bit more of an upset?
Yeah, I think it could. I think it's one of those things where, for one, if you watch the Panthers episode, I'm a big believer in what the Panthers are doing right now. But secondly, I don't think the Saints team is like a team that you could walk into a team like the Panthers.
It's in the
like,
Superdome.
Yeah, it was his own win.
It's in the Superdome. Is
kind totally. I also we've talked about this team a lot. I'm not. The Saints are not a team I'm looking at an easy game and being like, yeah, that's the one that you.
Fair. Okay, that's fair. Playing against the Cowboys in Dallas, I feel like that's probably a loss.
Yeah.
But then you play against Philly in the Superdome. Philly has had their fair share of success. The Saints have had their fair share of success against Philly in the past, right? I remember I think it was Jalen Hurts' first year as a full-time starter, and he was dicing teams up as a runner, and they had a great running game. And then the Saints played against him and held them to below 80 yards rushing or something. They did a really good job there. And I'm expecting something similar here. I think Dennis Allen is someone that kind of prides himself on beating up on QBs like Jalen Hurts. I feel good about a potential upset in Week 3, benefiting the Saints. The Falcons in Atlanta. That's a division rival.
Toss-up. Yeah, division rivalry. It's always a toss-up.
Yeah, but I feel like in Atlanta they probably lose it.
At Arrowhead, give me the Chiefs.
On primetime television, yeah, they're not. Yeah.
Xavier Worthy, 75-yard touchdowns.
But then Buccaneers, another division matchup. I feel good in the Superdome. I feel good saying the Saints probably win that one.
Yeah.
And then against Dallas on Thursday night, against Denver on Thursday night. Once again, in the Superdome, I feel good about that one. I feel good the Saints have the ability to win it. But then at the Chargers, I don't know. I feel like the Chargers probably take it. I look at the Panthers game in Carolina. I feel like the Carolina Panthers probably take that one. The Falcons game, that, again, is a toss-up. And then Cleveland, I think Cleveland.
It all really depends. It really depends on how this offensive line is playing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. That I completely agree with. Then you get a bye, but then after that bye week, you play the Rams. I think Rams kill them.
Yeah.
Kill them. The Giants game should be a fun one. I think that'll be close. I probably lean the Giants because they have home field advantage, but it should be a really close game.
I think Jane Daniels and the Commanders probably this might be one of those blowouts the Saints get, one that happens a year.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But then you play against Green Bay on primetime television in Lambeau.
Yeah, in the
Cold
winter.
weather, yeah, it's not gonna go well for you. The Raiders game should be a close one. I
should
think
be
that'll
close.
be pretty fun.
Should be close. Yeah.
In the Superdome, I feel like that's kind of a toss up. I'd probably take the Raiders in all honesty.
Yeah.
And then you wrap it up in Tampa Bay. That one, I think that depends on the circumstances going into that week.
Yeah.
Let's just go with the Saints on that. I finished with a record of 6-11. Tell me what you.
That's my exact record of 6-11.
So yeah, I mean it's a schedule. It's not too bad. Like you have some good games, mainly because your division.
It's really not a bad schedule. Like if this is a good football team, I'm probably predicting some wins here, man. But
yeah,
it's just this is the caliber of football team we're dealing with.
Exactly. So that's all for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed. If you want to look at the other episodes, they're in the description on Dean's channel. Some of them are, other ones are on mine. I hope you enjoyed once again. Feel free to check out the other links down below. I have my Twitter linked. I have my podcast linked. I have Dean's Twitter linked. Definitely check that stuff out. You will get more great content just like this. And I'll see you all again on the next one.